Talking so much. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to this most recent, latest installment, my only installment during National Poetry Month of Poetic License. I grant you all poetic license. Back in the day, I think I had a feature where I had poetic license cards for everybody that did a haiku reading or something. So it's poetic license. So hello and thank you all for coming. I know it's been a crazy day in schedule-wise, but we're going to do lots of rounds of poems, and I would like to hear as much from each and every one of you as possible. Yay, it would make me happy. As I had discovered before, when I was in a really bad mood last month, I'm like, you know, by the end of this, I feel so much better because just being around you guys is just double plus cool. So, sorry, I had to do it. This is usually the first round. I usually read poetry from the most recent issue of cc&d. In multiple rounds, I might do a few of them. I might do a round with periodic table stuff. I might do, in honor of Susan who can't be here, some ones that were in the book Testament about women's rights issues after post Roe v. Wade. But this issue, which is volume 356, what? Well, there are more because there are supplement sections. This is called Touching the Moon. Based on somebody's writing within the book, Touching the Moon. I'm like, I don't have photography, usually it's my photos, but I knew that John Yatko did, and I'm like, give me some moon photos and get something of the idea of touching the moon, so I thought that would be a cool, and I love that moon shot, so it's cool. Anyway, I wanted to share with you two poems that appear, haha, I'm looking at you, and I'm looking at Touching the Moon right in here, that were actually from an old performance art show, and I'm just going to do two. They're on the longer side, but I'm just going to do two, and we'll just go round robin, and we'll see what everybody is up for reading poetry, because I'm looking forward to hearing from all of you. This first one is a poem, and these are from an old show. I'm going to warn you because I think one of them talks about different presidents and stuff, so brace yourself for that. But this first one is titled The Good Doctor. California's Dr. John Ronald Brown had his medical license revoked in 1977 and was then in jail for 3 years. Brown later led potential patients to believe that he was a licensed doctor, and people allowed his transgendering surgeries because of his low prices. But John Ronald Brown was not only a doctor for transsexuals, but also those who got sexual gratification by having an arm or a leg amputated. In one case, a 9-year-old Philip Bondi, he had paid $10,000 to have his leg amputated in Brown's Tijuana clinic. After the surgery, Bondi was taken to a San Diego Holiday Inn for his recovery, but he died in the hotel in less than a day. So, John Ronald Brown, 75, was charged with murder and practicing medicine without a license. After his arrest, homicide detective Gary Stovall found in Brown's San Ysidro apartment a blood-stained couch and bloody towels soaking in this bathtub, as well as bloody trails, medical supplies, and his surgeries on videotapes scattered all about the floor. Inside Edition even videotaped him performing a surgery where you could still hear the patient during the surgery moaning and howling in pain. A Northern California businesswoman witnessed Brown operate on an HIV-positive patient once, and in another case, Brown used too much erectile tissue to construct genital outer lips for a transgender patient. And as a result, whenever the girl got excited, her labia got hard. People went to Brown because he was cheap enough to plug silicone injection holes with crazy glue. And because he technically wasn't a doctor, he never asked questions, and you could have the operation you always wanted done. Atlanta-based transgender author Dallas Denny said that transsexuals knew him as Tabletop Brown, because he operated anywhere from kitchens to garages to motel rooms, and some patients even woke up in parked cars, and everyone knew there was no screening or no aftercare with Brown, which may explain why no one watched over the ailing Philip Bondi after his Saturday morning operation. Bondi was happy at first, though he later said he felt Brown sawing on his leg. Brown's office was in Mexico to avoid American law, but right after the operation on Bondi, to hide the evidence, Brown drove 15 miles out to the desert toward Ensenada, throwing the leg out the window for the coyotes to eat. Bondi was left in a Holiday Inn in San Diego Saturday evening and was found Sunday morning lying half on the bed and half off. The wheelchair was turned upside down, the phone was tipped over, the sheets were pulled out, and blood was oozing from the blackened and gangrenous remnants of his leg. For you see, he was infected with gaseous gangrene, a fast-moving flesh-eating bacteria which eventually stopped his heart. So, in October, a San Diego jury found Brown guilty of second-degree murder. But people still have their fetishes, and someone will always be there to take advantage of them. Oh my gosh, stories. Oh my gosh, stories. Thank you. I'm not quite sure how much applause that is, but thank you. But on a different theme from a different show. No, it might be the same show, who knows. This was from Scar's Internet News, which was a thing that I did, just so Dan Weinberg knows, at the cafe before I started hosting it. When it was a blue room or a red room, and I had a little news broadcast, and all these things were news stories. And I think this one was in this one as well, and it was titled, What I Would Ask. What I Would Ask. It starts with a quote. I like the Lao Tzu tongue. I've got to share the quote first. Violence, even well-intentioned, always rebounds upon oneself. I hear radio talk show hosts like Rush Limbaugh and Sean Hannity, and I listen to our religious president. I hear these radio talk show hosts praise the life of an unborn child, or try to save Terry Schiavo on life support. I know some even run charities to help natural disaster victims. Kind people, these Republicans. Then I hear that Texas, President W. Bush's state, I'm afraid the state I'm in now, has put 10 times more prisoners to death than any other state since the 70s. I even hear the Republicans protest the Supreme Court's decision that minors shouldn't get a death penalty. And when I hear about their love of life, and then I hear about their hatred of life, I wonder if I'm the only one who sees their moral confusion. So when I hear these radio talk show hosts get on their high horses over the radio waves, downplaying anyone's argument and galloping away on their steed, I'd like to call in and ask them the question. Excuse me, I see that you Republicans seem to revere life so much, from the unborn to those on life support who need our help. So I have to ask, how can you support the death penalty? Why do you revere some life, then decide to exterminate someone who's committed a crime? I've heard you talk about the evils of abortion, but why, when it's wrong to kill a fetus, a life yet to breathe on its own, why is it okay to kill people who have been breathing for years? But hey, Mr. President, when our country is now so far in debt because of everyone's wars, maybe we should start to save money by not killing prisoners? I mean, the death penalty doesn't deter, and it costs more taxpayer money than every man on death row. Getting appeal after appeal while every taxpayer pays the court costs and the judge costs and the government-appointed lawyer costs. Hell, with the death penalty, we still pay for their food and their keep in prison for years. So if we spend more money killing people than keeping them in prison for life, why not just learn to be moral and cut financial corners and help out our economy? But I'm sure those talk show hosts would cut me off discussing the heinousness of the prisoners' crimes, but I'd try to ask them, who made you the judge? I've heard death penalty supporters claim that the Bible supports the death penalty, though they never say where. I suppose that in the Old Testament God killed entire towns, flooded the earth, but according to their religion, God is the judge, not them. I've heard these supporters say they're Christians. Christians like their wonderful president. And then they say that they support an eye for an eye, which is when I wonder why they're referencing the Old Testament. Not that there's anything wrong with the Old Testament, but they're referring to the Old Testament, not their Christian New Testament. They're listening to Jesus' words, but they told them to ignore what his Father said and to do what he said and love one another. I mean, Jesus told everyone to turn the other cheek. Killing someone is hardly turning the other cheek. I mean, where's their Christian forgiveness when they sentence people to death? And wait a minute, do these Christian people believe Jesus would support their death sentences? It makes me think of terrorists who support killing people who don't believe in their God, in their way. We find terrorist behavior abhorrent, and we sit here behind our high and mighty Constitution deciding who lives and who dies. But our Christian president likes playing God. The presidency mustn't be enough for him. I guess the president's running the casino, and he just keeps saying to himself, because he has to be right, that the House always wins. Oh, my moral high ground stuff. Ladies, I thank you for the applause. Nobody can hear it here, but you guys are, as I had said before, double plus awesome. That is all I'm going to read. They were longer, just two in that first round. We're going to do round robin stuff, and I'm going to say, but of course, my guest host, I love the fact that David is here. I'm sad that John is not, and this is where my remorse comes in. That's all that's about. I love that you are here, and I'm really looking forward. And every time I read, this man, my Zoom host, should be following. And by the way, he should be putting in his thing for people paying him coffee, because I have to give him some coffee for these things, because he deserves it for having to pay for these Zoom meetings, because he's making this a thing. He is making this a thing. So I will show. So David, it is yours. And then Dan, yay, you get to follow on the open mic. So take it away, my darling. I will mute myself. Dave, the stage is yours.